Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of In the Pit with your host, Lobo Tigre. Our victim of the day is Thomas Lamb. He's CEO of Myriad Uranium, a company I follow in my take. Hint, hint. By the way, I'm supposed to say like and subscribe on YouTube and all that stuff, but let's get right to it. Tom, I follow Myriad. I'm aware of this story, but why don't you give us the elevator pitch here for anybody that's not?
Great. Myriad has two projects, one in Wyoming called Copper Mountain, the Copper Mountain Uranium Project, and another smaller project in New Mexico called Red Basin. Copper Mountain was advanced during the 1970s by a subsidiary of Union Pacific Railway. They spent 85 million US, today's dollars, drilled 2,000 holes, identified 7 deposits and 15 prospects, which were drilled, but just not enough to become deposits. They planned a large-scale mine in cooperation or partnership with Southern California Edison. It was going to start production in 1983, but 1979 happened, 3 Mile Island, and that basically cut the legs out from under the U.S. uranium sector, as many people know. And our New Mexico project is very interesting, but smaller and earlier stage. So that's the company. Great management, super investors.
You do say so yourself.
Oh, well, actually, my colleagues. Yeah, quite right. I'm very lucky with our board and our technical team. It's designed to we're
Why don't
we'll be
you say a
building
little
a
bit
big
more
company out
about
of
that?
this.
Because I don't know
Sure.
you personally. Why are you the right
Yeah.
guy, or if not you, your technical advisors? Why are you the right people to deliver value here?
Sure. So I was a corporate lawyer, M&A, and finance guy. I started a gold mining company in 2005 as a much younger guy with a friend. It's called Gold Group. It turned into a small gold producer, and that was a great deal. We had an IPO 5 years later after building it privately, and it ended up being worth a few $100 million, and it was a great success for me. I learned how to build a company as management. And then I joined the board of Russia's second largest. Oh, I got him because the company was going to be successful. I got invited into lots of deals. I ended up going to London Business School of Finance and joined the board of Russia's second largest gold producer at the time, a really big company, and got great experience there. I was there for a few years. That's before 2014. And then I started with Simon Clark, who's our chairman currently, and a couple other partners. We started M2 Cobalt deal, East Africa, which we sold to an offshoot of Glencore called Jervois. And Simon and I stayed on as executives as part of the deal. That was one of the terms of the deal. And that company, we and our group, with Nickel Cobalt Group out of Glencore, and then us, we took it up from 100 million to 1.3, 1.4 billion. Cobalt, of course, crashed after that, but that was a great ride. Another deal where we, hopefully a lot of our investors took a fair amount of money off the table. So we have done these things, and Simon was CEO of American Lithium until a year ago or so, and he helped take from a few tens of millions up to 1.2, $1.3 billion market cap, and a big return for investors who also sold along the way. So that's myself and Simon Clark. We have a fantastic board, Marvin Singer, who was a senior partner at one of the major international law firm, mining.
Sorry, let me jump in. Who's your uranium
Yeah.
guy then? Because cobalt, the other yellow metal, I'm not hearing uranium yet.
Yeah, you're right. You have not. George Fundervalt is our chief geologist. He led the exploration at the Karoo project for Peninsula last cycle. That had 12,000 boreholes. He's our uranium expert. He's Johannesburg based. We previously were looking in Niger for uranium, and he followed us to, or we prevailed on him to continue with us into North America. And he is a true expert, world class, and we feel very, very lucky to have him with us, especially in this environment where, companies are struggling for top-notch uranium expertise, whether it's geology, the engineering, running a mine, building a mine, running a mine, as Cameco and others have expressed. And we're just very lucky to have him. He's a big reason for, the success we've had so far. We
Okay.
also have Jim Davis. Jim Davis is a world-renowned geologist. I believe he's in his early 90s now. He's on our technical advisory committee. He worked for Kennecott, lots of big companies, but he was general manager of Union Pacific's exploration in the 1970s at our project. He ran that $85 million worth of work at our project, and then it was going to become a mine. And that got cut off. He's from Wyoming. He currently lives in Denver, and he's a critical part of our technical team, still sharp as a tack, and really excited that we're there, and knows the place, like the back of his hand. In fact, in the 1950s, he discovered the first uranium mine at our project. That's how Copper Mountain got started. There were a few small Cold War era mines, but he discovered the very first significant mine there called Arrowhead, which produced 500,000 pounds at 0.15%. That's partly
really
why he was
interesting.
brought back.
That's really
Fabulous.
something to have a
Yeah.
resource like that. That's
Amazing.
yeah, that's really impressive. But you got to be careful with
Yeah.
these 90-year-olds. They're kind of like 19-year-olds. They often think they don't have that much to risk, so they can be pretty
Let's go
aggressive.
for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Well, we have everybody around to tap the brakes on enthusiasm, and that goes for my enthusiasm too. When I get excited about things, because I get caught up and really keen on things, and we have plenty of. Well, I'm capable of tapping the brakes on other people too, because we've all been around. So I've mentioned a couple successes that I've had, but several deals have not worked out, where you drill and it's not there what you thought would be there.
Right.
So
So I have the story square. We have a historic known resource, and now we're going to drill it off to modern standards, and that gives us a head start. But I understand 3 Mile Island taking the project out back then, but
Yep.
why was this still available now? How did you get this project if it's so good?
Last cycle, 2006, 2 groups stepped into this project. So in between Anaconda, I think it was 96, 97, there was a little brief spike in the uranium price those 2 years. Anaconda came in and did some work in the area. They analyzed what was going to be the main pit, according to Union's 6-pit mine plan. But then the price of uranium dropped. So they did some work, did some drilling out to the west, which an area we've acquired. Fast forward to 2006, things are starting to move in uranium. 2 companies stepped in and they each acquired half. It's actually 60-40, but half of the main pit. So called the Canning deposit, its main deposit at Copper Mountain. And those 2 companies were Neutron Energy, which is now Encore, and Strathmore, which is the predecessor to all the F companies, F3, Fission, etc. So, and we have the internal data, a bunch of it from Neutron, now Encore. We don't have the Strathmore stuff so much, but the Neutron memos, internal management memos, sort of went like this. This is very exciting. This has a potential for several 100 million pounds, but we need to get the other half of the main deposit. And we're internally we can read the comments. We need to get the other half from Strathmore or do a combination to make this viable. So Encore had part of the main pit, and then they had this big swath of land in the sandstone. So our project goes from granite in the north, fractured granite, and then there's a layer in between that's kind of uranium covered boulders, sand, et cetera. And that was the original mine in the 1950s, 60s, and then sandstone roll front. And so Neutron had the southern big area in the south. They were looking for Wolfram sandstone, plus half of what would be a conventional pit in the north, and then Strathmore had the other half. They were engaged as far as we can tell, but then Fukushima hit, and the conversation stopped. And so what happened is the president, not the CEO, but the president of Strathmore, was a local Wyoming native last cycle. And I hope he'll forgive me for saying something that's a little bit more on the private side. But I believe he told his wife something like, honey, uranium is coming back. We are going to stake these claims in the main pit, and uranium will be back in a couple of years. And this will be great, and we'll resurrect this project. Well, that was 2013, 14, something like that. Maybe after Strathmore let the claims lapse, and everybody was, and he held on to them, and he held on to them until about 4.5 years ago, when I think it, finally, maybe uranium wasn't coming back, and it was finally time to let these claims go. So a company called Rush Rare Metals, I'm not sure what the timing was, but something like that. Rush Rare Metals has a maybe a previous board member, but certainly a significant shareholder, who was telling the CEO of Rush, uranium is coming, and there's probably a way for you to get these claims of this Copper Mountain. Let me help you figure this out. The CEO of Rush, fairly reluctant at the time, said, uranium is, what do you mean uranium? We're focused on niobium in Quebec, a really good project there called Boxy. Well, the shareholder eventually convinced Pete Smith to acquire these claims, and people can look it up, $250,000, and there's in shares, I believe. I'm not totally clear on that original deal, but it was something like that, $250,000 for the core 11 claims. And 3 months later, uranium started to move. And that's how our partner, the optionor, the project, acquired Copper Mountain. And then uranium went through a few ups and downs after that. Yes, it started to move up. Myriad was exploring Niger. We had fabulous projects, areas, claims next to Dasa, or just in the correct spot down the structure from Dasa, where it intersected with the other big structure that goes up to Immereren, world's second largest deposit, and then north to the GoviEx Madaouela project. So we had fabulous claims there, but of course there was a military coup. We said, okay, we're out of here, not sticking around. I have spent many years in Africa myself, 11, 12 years doing Africa stuff, and it was time to, so uranium was in a bit of a lull. Rush was focused on Quebec. They had this Copper Mountain project. Nobody had any data regarding Copper Mountain, except for little bits and bobs. So we did an option deal with, we needed somewhere to save the company, to save Myriad. We had to do something. We optioned Copper Mountain from Rush. And then actually the story is that right during the 30-day due diligence window, we acquired a big data package from a rancher in in Wyoming, that had been accumulating data since 1982, when Union Pacific had left Wyoming. And this was amazing because it revealed, if you read the 43-101 on the project that Rush has, it basically said maybe some past production, but there's not much we can say about this project because we don't have any data. You don't have any data. We don't have any data. So good luck. You have to go find some data or start a maiden drill program. So that's actually what we stepped into. That's what this option was. Our whole agreement, our option agreement, is based on that amount of knowledge of the project. Well, during our window, we acquired all this data, and it said, first of all, we got a bunch of the neutron energy encore data, but also we got a lot of the Union Pacific data, and it said big resource, which we have to call a historical resource, huge upside potential based on these peripheral prospects, and a mine plan and feasibility studies and huge spend and 2,000 boreholes, et cetera. And we just thought, okay, this is amazing. We've,
So,
you need luck too.
apart from the corporate history, I guess the principal answer to the question is that the data wasn't there for most people. It wasn't snapped up because people didn't know how good it might be.
There's no way.
Right.
Absolutely
So
right.
let's talk about how good it might be.
Proprietary paper.
We're talking about these old pit designs and things. So we're not considering in situ mining, are we? We're thinking conventional mining still, or with those layers, is there in situ possibility? Because by non-Athabasca standards, okay, you've maybe got something, but the Athabasca does exist. So,
I know.
why do we need to look at this low-grade stuff in Wyoming at all?
Yeah. Okay, well, little comment. You're quite right. Athabasca, and hey, maybe we do have some unconformity style mineralization deeper down. That's something that Anaconda was looking at in decades ago regarding Copper Mountain, that maybe there's a deeper thing, and that could be extremely exciting. You're quite right. Hard to compete in terms of grades, et cetera. However, access to Copper Mountain, we're right either at surface or near surface, all of this material. We're right next to the railroad, next to the highway, power lines, et cetera. So just mention that. But as early as I'd say 1976, Union Pacific was looking at the in situ recovery potential too. And their data that we have says there are reasons to be optimistic about ISR, but nobody has done proper testing yet. Encore / neutron, optimistic about in situ, but had not done the tests yet. The northern part of the project area, I think you can say this fractured granite. That's where that hosts the uranium. That would be conventional mining. A little bit of talk of maybe some other ways to get at the uranium, possibly some in situ, but not this conventional roll front sandstone in situ that we're used to. The transition zone could be mined with this ablation technology, where you basically have to spray the uranium off the sand and the boulders and the rocks, et cetera. And it can be quite high grade and quite profitable. That's what they were doing in the 50s and 60s, although different process. But then you get into the sandstone, so the southern half of our project area, and that would be in situ recovery. And so there's a fair amount of drilling down there, although not as much as in the northern part. We have maps, and I think there's some speculated roll front, and then maybe some that's based on a fair amount of drilling. And we have the key areas, and we have to go back there and drill to see if the roll fronts are really there. And that would be, so the southern half would be in situ recovery. And to the west, there's a fair amount, but that is in the future. That is not, we don't have current resources in the sandstone that we can quickly get to, go after with in situ. But yeah, in situ is a distinct possibility at Copper Mountain.
Okay, so the drill results that you've reported thus far, what were they testing and what do they show us?
Okay. If there were 6 pits in the historic mine plan. The main pit, about half of the ore, total ore for the initial mine plan, that's called the Canning deposit. The northern half of that is an area of special interest, or the higher grade zone of that pit. We have historical drill intercepts, cross sections of several hundred of them, that area. So we went back to drill that area to confirm that data. We drilled that about 11 months ago. We drilled 34 holes into that zone, and our geologist, I think he likes me to use the word verified. We've successfully verified the historic work that was done there. So we have high confidence in the work that was done in the late 1970s. We drilled 34 holes. We got 30 intercepts over 1,000 parts per million, and grades up to, now equivalent grades up to 8,000 ppm once we went through the chemical assays.
Sorry, Tom, let
our
me just jump
grades.
in. Is that
Yep,
high enough confidence that you can then validate that old data to use in a 43101 report, or just high confidence that it's
not
there?
enough.
Okay.
Not enough. It's high confidence that it's there, and high confidence that was at minimum accurate and probably quite conservative is our view. And I'll explain why. So we verified that those cross sections are at minimum quite accurate and conservative. So, but all this is not enough for 43101. We probably have to do additional drilling. How much drilling? The resource estimating folk will not tell you exactly, unfortunately, even if you try to, however many, beers you try to, they just won't, especially if they're professionals. So we don't know exactly, but it's several more holes, up to maybe a dozen to more holes in that zone to get a resource. Okay, so we have the historical cross sections. Unfortunately, the intervals in those cross sections, they're illustrated and they give grade ranges. So based on color, they'll show 20 feet of between 500 and 1,000 parts per million instead of giving us the exact number. And that makes it really hard when you're doing resource estimation. And they don't like it, of course. So, the grade shells are just kind of, well, it doesn't really work very well, obviously. And so
Sure.
you can't get a 43101 resource out of it. And then, 1,000 to 2,500 and then 2,500 plus. And you don't know what the 2,500 plus is. Was it 4,000, 10,000? However, extremely useful, nonetheless, very useful. So we went back and we got better results drilling in the same place than they got back then, compared to these cross sections. Now, for 43101 reasons, and also reasons of just to be conservative, we don't say, oh, this is what we think we did, how much better we did. Then we did so, but that was, we used gamma probe. Same, they used gamma probe too in the 1970s. We got lots of really great intercepts. Then we sent all the material for assay. So roughly half diamond, half RC. So half chips, half core. We sent all of the good intercepts to the lab for assay. And something really cool happened. We were already clued in that maybe they were super conservative back in the 1970s, because they had a real disequilibrium issue trying to figure out the disequilibrium in this zone and across the whole project area. In the data, we saw that they used fluorometric methods to try and get like an accurate handle, because assays are expensive. They did very few of them, chemical assays. So they used fluorometric methods, and they were getting much more uranium in the rock than the gamma probe was showing. They also used DFN probe, delayed fission neutron probing, to try to figure out the grades. Fluorometric methods indicated a lot more uranium, but they did not go with it. So their resource estimates, their mine planning, their feasibility studies were all based on the very conservative numbers. But there's internal conversations about how the fluorometric methods were showing significantly higher uranium counts. But then 3 Mile Island, everybody went home. So fast forward to us, we sent everything to the laboratory. Where the gamma probe showed 1,000 ppm or higher, we were getting 60% higher grades. It turns out gamma probe says 1,000. Turns out there's 1,600 ppm, or 0.016. Where there's 500 ppm equivalent grade, we were getting 50% higher uranium grades from the laboratory. Where just any rock with some uranium equivalent grade, and in fact, the average 24% higher. There's 24% more uranium than the gamma probe indicates. So that is, you can imagine that if you do the conceptual math, grade shells, size of grade shells, and amount of uranium inside the grade shells, that has a huge impact, as you can imagine. So we feel like we're doing extremely well. We're really happy about that. Just to help people who are not technical, I talk about invisible uranium. If I'm talking to
Carlin style
people,
uranium.
yeah, you're right. And then I explain. So this is disequilibrium. Is uranium, the gamma probe doesn't pick up very well. We believe we have extra uranium. This is in parts of the drilling that where the probe did not pick up uranium, but maybe the assays will. So we've sent additional samples for assay. We've actually we've got them. We sent them several months ago. We've been expecting the results. In fact, we have the results, and hopefully we'll be putting the results up soon. But this could potentially further increase, expand the grade shells and increase the amount of uranium inside the grade shells too. Overall, and that's something that's happening right now. So that's the drilling, and we'll be doing a lot more drilling. We just got a big permit, which we announced a week ago, for Copper
So
Mountain
forgive
across
me
the
to
whole
be
project area.
Procrustean, but the summary is
Yep.
that the work done thus far has basically been proving up canning and literally proving up, confirming it's there and upping the grade probably overall, right?
Right.
So
Correct. And
what's next?
yeah,
What are the deliverables going forward? Assuming that all works out, then
yeah.
where do you go from here? Do you start doing metallurgy to start wrapping your mind around economics, or do we go to testing the other zones? Where do we go next?
Test the other zones plus additional drilling in this area that we've already drilled, because we can further advance the area we've already drilled, and then we can also establish the excitement of these prospects. For example, just north of Canning, there's an area called Lucky Cliff. I think there are 9 holes that we're aware of, and they have very nice intercepts. They really wanted to get back there. 9 holes, one of them, for example, 85 feet of 1200 ppm. That's a really nice intercept. And that's an equivalent grade, maybe with the disequilibrium. We're up at 1800 or higher ppm. So we'll go back.
And is
And
that in the
just
sandstone or the conglomerate?
that is in the basement or fractured granite. Yeah. So,
Okay.
but it goes right up to surface, I believe, or very close to surface. And
I saw in your
there's
most recent press release that you have permits for another 220 holes. Is that enough to cover all your priority targets, or is that just enough to scratch the surface here with what, 15 known zones?
we are going to have to expand that permit a lot. So it's enough to do more drilling. We have 50 more holes permitted in our canning zone that we've already drilled, and then some holes in each of the other areas that we're focused on. And then there are more zones beyond that. So, we're going to have to keep evolving the permit as we advance. So if we drill some nice holes in an area, we'll go back and we'll amend the permit.
All right. And forgive me, I don't know where you're at in Wyoming. What's the elevation like? Can you drill all year? Is it in the desert and is it warm enough in the winter, or are you way up in the mountains and it's going to freeze your water lines?
We're a pretty good spot. It's in the weather shadow. We're south facing. We're right in the very center near a town called Riverton, and actually more specifically a town called Shoshone. And you could drill there all year round, provided there's not a big snowstorm. But actually our area is where they used to winter all the cattle and horses and all that sort of thing, because of pretty reasonable weather. But I think take December, January, February off. Generally, we were drilling right up to well into November, middle of November last year, and it was fine.
And are you drilling now, or are you just waiting on
No,
those assays?
we're waiting on the assays. That's going to help us adjust our thinking and our planning a little bit. And then I think there's a good chance we'll be drilling in February or March once we've
All right. So we're
evolved our thinking.
for what happens next, we're thinking about 2026 results then.
Yeah.
What's your budget to hit these things, and how much of that do you have in the bank?
We have 2.6 in the bank currently, and that's going up because people are exercising their warrants. We spend money quite slowly if we're not drilling, not actively drilling. Our budgets, our monthly burn's really low. So 2.6 in the bank. Depends what uranium is doing. If we're going to get a big return on drilling, we're we can dial things up and raise more money and drill more. If we want to be economical and very focused, we could spend $1 million US, for example, and drill 10 to 12 holes, mostly diamond, and
Well, if the
depends what
mineralization
we
is so
want to do.
close to surface, couldn't you drill more than that? I mean, how much are you paying per
Absolutely.
meter?
So to call it $200. Well, let's see. Depends on whether it's diamond or RC. Maybe RC is $80 or $90 a foot, and diamond is. It depends on the depth and etc. And mob and demob. Let's see. Probably all in, including assays, $270 US a meter for diamond,
Okay.
something like that.
Well, that's not hugely more than the RC. I mean, if it's 80, 90,
No,
you know,
actually, you're right. It's meant to be about, RC is about half as expensive, all in.
okay.
Is so I hope I'm not misleading you with the math. But here's where
And
things.
were you looking to confirm? I mean, if you're trying to understand the stratigraphy and all that, diamond, obviously, but if you're looking to confirm, why not use more RC? I mean, you already know it's there. You just want grade, right?
It's true. So we do want to understand the stratigraphy in these other areas. So
Okay.
yeah, so if it's in the peripheral zones, also there are some disadvantages with RC when it comes to probing. So even though we're going to assay largely, but the probing is still very useful, and we can improve on. We think now that we understand subsurface a lot better, we can probe kind of actively as we drill diamond holes. But if we drill with the RC, it creates some issues with the probing also.
So actually, I should take back my remark about Carlin style uranium, because even if it's invisible, you're going to get some kind of CPS on the probe. So you do know where to send something off to assay. If it's not ticking at all, then you know that there's not a lot of point in spending that money, right?
That's correct. Well, what do you do if it's ticking and you believe it's 80 ppm? You know, that's where we did not send it before. What if that comes back at 400 ppm or 500 ppm after you assay it? That's something we've been trying to figure out, or up to 800 ppm, for example. So something
Well,
that's
you
marginal.
could always re-assay later, like, go for the
Yep,
juicy bits now. And then once you're doing your engineering, or, then, oh, well, maybe stuff that could be modeled as waste, if you assay that, maybe that becomes low grade stockpile or something. But you don't need to do
you
that
got
during
it.
your delineation process. Sorry, I'm not an
No, you're
engineer.
right.
I'm not telling you what to do. It just seems to me.
No, we think about it. I mean, we've got uh, uh, we have Ron Hallis, by the way, who was Chief Operating Officer of Global Atomic, is on our advisory committees in mining engineering. He basically built the DASA mine up until whatever it was, a year or two ago that he left.
Well,
Was that
history
right around the coup
happens,
time?
right?
So we have there's Ron. We got lots of people who are around to provide input on these questions of what's optimal. So of course
Okay.
we are a small company too. So we want
Okay.
to.
So the answer to my question is actually, you know what you want to do. Your budget is flexible. You have money to begin. And if uranium's rewarding you for that, then you'll ramp up your spend.
Absolutely.
And if not, you'll go with the high priority targets and see what happens then. Is that right?
That's exactly it. Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And since you're drilling in the US, actually both your projects in the US, then there's no flow through or anything like that. It's all hard dollars that you can use however you want.
Correct. Wyoming has a program which we'll apply for, where they provide some matching dollars. If you raise $5 million to spend on drilling, they might kick in quite a bit of money, but we haven't accessed yet. accessed that yet, and there's no guarantee we'll get it. But we're not eligible for flow through.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, with the enthusiasm of the new administration in the U.S., who knows what might happen? But let's not ruminate on that. So I
That's
get it.
right.
I think I understand where we're going, what we're doing, what the deliverables are. Let me ask you an unfair question. Of the
Yep.
regional targets or the other targets, is the one that really puts a gleam in your eye? Is there one that, yeah, you can't wait to drill that one and see if it adds that excitement that you're looking for?
Oh yeah. And the main ones I can't tell you about quite yet. So that's what's so interesting here. So the targets we were able to talk about publicly, but there is a lot more going on behind the scenes. We just put out a news release, which you probably read, that talks about two documents. One document was a summary document from 1982, U.S. Department of Energy. They engaged Bendix Engineering to study Copper Mountain. This was right after, the timing was too bad for everybody, because 3 Mile Island, Union had decided to shut down Copper Mountain because the uranium price had collapsed. California Edison wasn't going to build all these reactors, et cetera. But nonetheless, U.S. Department of Energy completed this study of Copper Mountain, and they assessed, or Bendix Engineering on behalf of the U.S. Department of Energy assessed 1982 that the central part of our Copper Mountain project has 245 million pounds of uranium down to 600 feet. And a broader area has 655 million pounds. And they called it endowment, which is not a 43-101, for regulators.
Is there any kind of average grade associated with that? You should really wave your arms big when you say things like that, but
I know. They didn't quite do average grade, but they were looking at sort of the 500 parts per million
as a
kind of zone. Well, they didn't approach it that way. So within, for example, the 655 million pounds in the broader area, there are zones of high grade. There are zones of low, 100 to 200 to 300 ppm. And then there'll be what they believe is that, and that the work. So we've known about this for a few years. We did not put it out because we had only this summary document. We couldn't believe it when we saw this a few years ago. It was in this data package that we acquired when we did sign the option. First thing we do, we pick up this. I mean, we have boxes and boxes and boxes of data. One of them was this Bendix report from 1982, the summary, and it almost said, congratulations, you've got 245 million pounds in your central area and 655 million pounds in broader area down to 600 feet. And by the way, in our last program, we drilled down to 1,600 feet and we encountered a nice intercept at 1,495 feet, which is part of this unconformity Athabasca stuff that Anaconda was looking at decades ago, thinking that maybe there's unconformity under Copper Mountain, but that's a whole other kettle of sushi we can talk about. But we got this summary report. It said 245 million pounds in your central area, and then areas that have not even been drilled yet but look for structural reasons, like they may host another Canning deposit, another big deposit, et cetera. We did not put that out and we did not talk about it, but I have been chomping at the bit for years to talk about it. It was only a few weeks ago we discovered, and the reason we didn't is because now I was a securities lawyer, M&A lawyer, but focused on securities when I was getting started. And then we did not want to be too hyperbolic with the public. We want to be very careful about putting that type of thing out because we did not have the backup for it. We only had the summary document. Well, we now have the backup, which is a 660 page document, which we obtained a few weeks ago, which actually—
I was going to say that, I mean, if the work was done for the government, that has to exist somewhere. And
absolutely. In fact, it turns out it was downloadable the whole time. I had a question on Twitter. How did you guys not acquire this document years ago? We didn't, and I'm sorry, public. If we could have, we would have. we had the summary document, but we obtained this comprehensive document. It includes methodology, data, additional drilling that Bendix did in the 81, 82 for this report, new methods, very robust and rigorous analysis, which I invite everybody to go. You can explore the document yourself, everybody. It's out there. And that may be why our share price also has really been moving significantly too, is I think there's some really serious people. Well, I'm getting phone calls from people you'd expect to call when they see something like that. And so now with this backup, we've felt like it's within 43-101 and also within the responsible parameters so that we have a responsibility to the public. We felt like we could put those numbers out, and they're very exciting. And also, we have the potential to have the largest uranium project in the United States now. So
there's a forward-looking statement. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what's going on. So when you ask me, what am I really excited about? Just wait. We've learned a lot of new stuff. We also have the microfiches that are kind of in the envelope in the back that I'm not sure that those are available to the public, that type of thing. So exciting times for us. Very exciting times.
All right. I got it. Okay. I get it. And we've got money to begin testing. So we look forward to seeing how it goes. Well, Tom, You've been a good sport with some obnoxious questions here. I've got one more for you. I always ask everybody, you're looking for me to put my own hard-earned money into this story. How much of yours have you put in? What kind of skin in the game do you have?
Sure. Straight answer is probably around 650,000 out of my checking account directly into the company. Some market buying, all the private placements. So I'm in, and I think my pricing is between 20 and 44, 46 cents. I have no cheap stock. I am along for the ride with you guys. So, and I believe in this. So there's that. I'm the second largest shareholder on the Noble list. And also we're in this for the equity. So we're focused. We don't pay big fees, management, et cetera. And we run lean, and we're in this for a big return on a per share basis. Some people like to build up
company. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, some people like to build up the big market caps, but we want the share price to be high.
Understood and appreciated. All right. Well, as I say, you've been a good sport, so I'll let you have the last word. Is there any one main takeaway you want to make sure the audience has?
Yeah. Please contact me. One thing I want to say is my phone number is always available. I'm on WhatsApp. Ask me questions, etc. Please do look at our last few news releases so you can understand what the potential is here. We drilled deeper holes at the end of 2024. We found uranium deeper than anticipated. Take a look at what that might mean. There's some real excitement potential there. And yeah, this is going to be an exciting project for the next couple of years. Oh, can I say one last thing? Even if you don't invest, please put us on your ticker and track us, because I think you're going to find it pretty interesting how we build these companies, like the process that because our group, we've built these things before and taken companies from share prices from low to really high and delivered exits for investors. And if you're just sort of interested in how it's done, please keep track of us and keep your eye on us. I think people are going to find it pretty interesting.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And please do keep us posted.
Shall do. Thanks, Lobo.
Thank you for watching this edition of In the Pit with Lobo Tigre. If you enjoyed or found value in what you just saw, and you're watching this on any sort of social media, please do hit the like button and the share link. Send this on to anybody you think might be interested. That helps us out a lot. If you're watching this on YouTube, please do hit the subscribe button as well. The number of subscribers helps us get more valuable content to you as well. On the subject of subscribing, I'll quickly say that if you're not a subscriber to our free weekly Speculators Digest, I encourage you to sign up. I promise if you do, we will not send you a flood of daily advertisements. You get one free weekly digest with original research not published anywhere else. Check it out at independentspeculator.com. Thank you and have a great day.